I reserved table 3 at Ferry Street Bistro. The one Lauren and I used to joke was jinxed because it sat too close to the kitchen swing doors. Back then, the crash of pans and wafting garlic would make us laugh until our ribs ached. I figured if I brought her back there, maybe we'd find that laughter again. She'd texted earlier that afternoon, "I'll be there. Promise." I took her at her word. I showed up 15 minutes ahead of time, envelope tucked into my jacket. Inside were 2 tickets for a weekend getaway up north, secluded cabin, lake view, everything ready. The plan was simple. Dinner, some wine, hand her the envelope, and ask her if she'd try again with me. After 10 years, we owed ourselves more than strained conversations and schedule conflicts. The hostess brought me to table 3. I ordered the Pinot she always liked and waited. 10 minutes passed, then 20, then 40. The waiter came by again and again, hovering politely, pen in hand, his eyes soft with sympathy. At the 50-minute mark, I pulled out my phone. Her location was still on. It didn't show Ferry Street. It showed the Terrace House, across town. I recognized the name. It was one of those invite-only rooftop lounges, usually thrown by Brandon. When I once asked too many questions, she'd simply called him my boss. I didn't feel heat in my chest, only a spreading chill. When the waiter returned, I handed the menu back. "Just the check. Leave the wine." I placed the envelope on the edge of the table, just beside the glass. A gift left unopened. No tears, no confrontation. Just a silence she wouldn't be there to break. She'd chosen her boss's rooftop soiree over our anniversary dinner. So I made the first and only real move. I left before she could offer excuses. When I walked into the apartment later that night, the quiet felt physical. I didn't collapse into a chair or pace the floor. I got to work. Drawer by drawer, shelf by shelf. I chose only what belonged to me. This wasn't packing. It was removal. I was extracting myself, careful not to leave even a footprint behind. No crumbs for her to stumble over later. Eventually, I reached her office, the one she'd declared off limits months ago. I hesitated at the door. For a second, I almost turned away, but then I walked in. Her desk was pristine, everything lined up with surgical precision. I pulled a flash drive from my pocket and set it in the center. Attached was a yellow sticky note that read, "Play once." The file it contained was simple. Our wedding vows, recorded the night before we said them aloud. It wasn't a warning, not a guilt trip, just proof of what she'd let go of. I placed my keys in an envelope and handed them to the building's front desk clerk. "She'll need these," I said. He gave me a look that told me he understood the shape of the story without needing to hear it. By midnight, I'd checked into a roadside motel. Cracked bathroom tiles, flickering neon out front. None of it mattered. I wasn't looking for comfort. I needed emptiness. At 12:47 a.m., my phone buzzed. "Where are you?" This isn't funny. I stared at the screen until it dimmed, then turned the phone face down on the nightstand. I wasn't going to answer. I wasn't going to explain. I'd begun my exit, and this time, I wasn't talking my way back inside. By morning, the missed calls stacked up. Voicemails, too. The first was short, clipped. "Mark, pick up. We need to talk." The second came sharper, tinged with annoyance. "You're being ridiculous. It was just a work dinner." By the third, her voice cracked a little. Lower, less sure. "Please call me. I don't know what's going on." I didn't answer. I turned the phone to vibrate and set it aside like it belonged to someone else. That evening, I met Drake at the Maple Street Diner, the kind that's open all night and hasn't changed since the 80s. He'd been my friend since college, one of the few who never needed a long explanation. Over stale coffee, I told him everything. The restaurant, the location check, the wine left untouched. He leaned back in the booth, disbelief flickering across his face. He couldn't wrap his head around the fact that Lauren had skipped our anniversary for her boss's exclusive rooftop party and still expected me to accept it without blinking. His advice was clear-cut. Don't let her write the narrative. He said I needed to draw the line, separate the finances, mail, access, before she twisted the story into me being unstable or erratic. By the time I walked out of that diner, the plan had taken shape. The next morning, I redirected my paycheck to a new, separate account. No more ties to the joint one. That night, another voicemail came in. It was just business, Mark. That's all it was. You're blowing this out of proportion. But I didn't respond. And for once, that silence belonged to me. I hit delete before she could finish her sentence. From that moment, I set a rule for myself. No more picking up calls, no more replying to voicemails. If she had something to say, she'd need to put it in writing. Written words don't warp the way spoken ones can. Back at the motel, I bolted the door, wedged a chair beneath the handle, and sat alone with the silence. This wasn't fear. It was a calculated move. 2 days passed, and it wasn't Lauren who showed up. It was Brandon. I was crashing at my sister Maya's place, stretched out on her couch while trying to sort out my next move. Around midday, the doorbell rang. Maya opened it, and I heard his voice before I saw his face. Smooth, polished, the kind of tone you'd expect in a conference room. "Is Mark here? Lauren's really worried." Maya's response was flat. "And you are?" "Brandon, I work with Lauren. I just need a moment with Mark." I stayed hidden in the hallway, listening closely. Maya didn't move. "He doesn't need anything from you." Brandon let out a light, rehearsed laugh. "I get how this might look. But you should know. Mark's been dealing with a lot. It's been clouding his judgment. I just came to straighten a few things out." There was a pause, then the sound of paper shuffling. "I've got something here. Just a simple agreement. A gesture of goodwill. If Mark wants to avoid unnecessary complications, we can make sure this doesn't escalate." Maya cut him off. "Did you seriously just bring hush money to my doorstep?" His voice sharpened. "It's not that. It's just cleaner for everyone if this stays under control. People's careers are at stake." I stepped a little closer, still out of sight. Every word told me exactly what Lauren had been feeding him. That I was losing it, being dramatic, unreasonable. Their tactic was clear. Undermine me before I had the chance to speak. Maya's voice rang out, calm but firm. "You've got 10 seconds before I call the cops. Take your folder and go." A beat of silence, then a quiet laugh, the kind that says he wasn't used to being told no. I heard the scrape of his shoes on the path as he turned and left. I waited until his car pulled away before walking into the room. Maya stood with her arms crossed. "You catch all that?" "Every word," I said. She shook her head slowly. "He's rattled. That's why he came himself. Don't give him what he wants." "I won't," I told her. Silence was my plan from the beginning. 3 nights later, Lauren came to Maya's house. No tears, no dramatic apology. Instead, she carried a vinyl record, our first favorite album, the one we used to play on lazy Sunday mornings. She held it out like a truce. "I just want to talk," she said. Maya looked at me for a signal. I gave a small nod. She let Lauren in but didn't go far, staying nearby with her arms folded. Lauren placed the record on the coffee table. "It wasn't what it looked like, Mark. That dinner, it was business. Donors, investors, all professional. Brandon blew it out of proportion. I didn't want to bail on you, but..." I cut her off. "You didn't bail. You just never showed up." Her jaw clenched. "It was one night, a mix-up with timing, that's all." I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees. "Strange. The timing lines up with the bar receipt Brandon signed. 11:30 p.m. You were still there, not home, not even a message." She blinked. "You checked?" I did. And it wasn't just drinks. People posted photos from the rooftop. You were laughing at jokes I never heard about, smiling in ways I haven't seen in years. Don't stand here and call that business." Her voice faltered. "Nothing happened. I swear. I drank too much, that's it. He made some dumb jokes. I laughed. But I came home to you. I shook my head. No. You came home to an empty bed. The silence after that was heavy. Then she said it, softly, like a confession. The sentence that shattered what little was left. I didn't think you'd actually leave. I let those words sit in the air. Because that was the heart of it. The raw, unvarnished truth. She never thought I would go. You were counting on me to stay, I said. That's the issue. Lauren's eyes bounced between me and Maya. What do you want me to do? I stood. This isn't about what I want. We're done. You'll hear from my lawyer. No more late-night visits. No more lies about me losing my grip. You made your decision. Now live with it. Her shoulders sank, but she didn't fight back. She placed the vinyl on the table and walked out without glancing back. Lauren didn't take long to shift her strategy. Within a week, my phone started lighting up with messages from mutual friends. Hey man, you good? Lauren said you're just taking some space. Overwhelmed. We heard things have been tough. Want to catch a beer? It was clear what she was doing, reshaping the story from the ground up. In their eyes, she was the caring spouse. I was the one spiraling. Classic sleight of hand. I didn't correct anyone. No posts, no clarifications. I let silence do the talking. It was heavy, deliberate, and aimed straight at the version of reality she was trying to sell. Then something cracked the surface, from a direction I hadn't anticipated. Late at night, Drake sent me a link out of the blue. Watch this, his text read. It was a 30-second Instagram story from Camilla, one of Brandon's assistants. Just a casual clip from a rooftop party, glasses clinking, city lights in the background. But there, tucked into the edge of the frame, was Lauren. Brandon leaned in close. Too close. His hand first found the back of her chair, then rested on her knee. She tilted her head back, laughing. No hesitation, no discomfort. Camilla had tagged it with innocent captions, terrace nights, work celebration. But once people caught sight of those two in the frame, the clip made its rounds fast. By morning, I had 4 private messages. One was just a screenshot. Another read, I'm sorry, I should have believed you. And for once, I didn't feel the need to explain a thing. That still image said more than I ever could. Lauren went dark on her socials. No vague posts, no justifications, which to me said everything. She knew the story she'd carefully crafted was slipping away, and this time staying quiet wasn't a shield. It was a spotlight. And for the first time since that night on Ferry Street, I felt something close to peace. Lauren's link with Brandon unraveled quickly after the video took off. What she thought was power, being pulled into his circle, turned out to be paper-thin under scrutiny. Brandon's attention faded almost immediately. The same man she'd prioritized over our anniversary began retreating, protecting his image and distancing himself. It had never been about loyalty with him, just optics. And the risk she took against our marriage? It didn't just fall apart. It exposed her, showed her she'd gambled everything and ended up with nothing. Once the clip had made its rounds, I stopped compulsively checking my phone. Messages still came in, but I didn't chase conversations, didn't offer explanations. I didn't need to. The truth had slipped out on its own. I signed a lease on a small studio across town. 1 room, wooden floors that creaked underfoot, and a kitchen that still smelled faintly of old paint. For the first time in a while, the space was mine, and the air was clear. I set up a workbench along the wall, started fixing up old cameras and amps, projects I'd shelved during the marriage. There was something steadying about it, pulling things apart, figuring out how they fit, deciding which parts weren't worth keeping. I joined a pickup basketball game at the rec center, got back into morning runs, started feeling my lungs again. My shoulders squared up without effort. The fold, the slump, I hadn't even realized how deep it had gone, started to lift. Old friends reached out, not out of pity, but as if they saw me again. Meanwhile, the legal part moved ahead. The mediator sent over the first draft of the separation terms. I kept it simple. Split what we shared. No public drama, no financial manipulation. I wasn't interested in vengeance, I just wanted closure. Then one evening, a message from Lauren lit up my screen. "I miss you. Tell me what you need from me." I stared at it for a while, and though I never typed it out, the answer was clear. What I needed, I already had. Space, clarity, a life no longer pulled into her orbit. The last time we saw each other, there was no scene, no raised voices, no tears, just two people at a quiet cafe, a stack of paperwork between them. She looked sharp, like always, but her eyes were different. Tired, hollow, like she knew charm wouldn't carry her anymore. She slid the papers across the table. "The mediator said we should go through the last details together," she said. I gave a slight nod, signed where it was needed, and slid the folder back across the table. The silence that followed lingered heavily until she finally spoke. "Mark," she said, her voice low, almost tentative, "do you think there's any way we could find our way back? Start over somehow?" I didn't pause. "No. We keep it clean. We move forward." She held my eyes for a beat too long, hoping to find something that just wasn't there anymore. When the absence finally registered, she reached into her bag and pulled out the vinyl she'd forgotten at Maya's place. She placed it gently on the table between us. "You should have this," she said. I shook my head. "It's yours. I'm done holding on to things that aren't mine." The quiet returned, thick and absolute. It felt like the closing paragraph of a story we'd both already read to the end. As I stood to go, a candle on the nearby counter caught my attention. It flickered exactly like the one at table 3 had that night. Only now I didn't wait for it to die down on its own. I leaned in and pinched the flame out myself, watching the wick twist into a thin trail of smoke. That was the shift. The first time ended because she chose a work dinner over being with me. This time, the ending was mine to make. I walked away without turning around. No dramatic words, no payback, just a quiet departure she'd carry with her long after I was gone.